Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ignited, where we have conversations about moments that truly matter. Our conversation for today is ignited by writing. Yes, you heard that right. Pagsusulat. Writing in many forms allow us to express who we are and what stories matter to us. For this topic, I could only think of one person who can really ignite us towards writing and book authoring. Our guest in Ignited loves to help and inspire people through the many books which he already has written. He enjoys being a teacher and mentor through the Hagay International and Go Negosyo. Among his many talents, he loves being an evangelical writer. He has written 10 inspirational books that led him to being recognized as a Gintong Aklat awardee. He also has 3 certified National Bookstore bestsellers. His brainchild Project Author, which he started 2010 and which allowed him to travel internationally, has helped many aspiring authors like me to discover our paths to becoming authors in our generation. Along with his wife, Miriam Kiambao, our speaker is a homeschooling parent to Josh and soon for their son Elijah, which they started to do last 2018 since becoming partners and co-owners of the Learning Hub Alabang by Homeschool Global. Dear viewers and friends, I am excited and honored to have this conversation with our author, mentor of aspiring authors, influential speaker, and successful entrepreneur, Coach Ardy Roberto. Hi, Coach.
Hey, JV.
You are
Uh,
hailing from Boracay.
yeah, I'm based now in Boracay, blessed by the sun, the sea, and the wind, and time with family. So, I'm in sabbatical mode right now. So I went out of sabbatical just to talk to you.
Yay! And I'm so honored and grateful for that. And I remember when you shared with us,
Mhm.
your aspiring authors in our
Mhm.
Viber group, that
Yeah,
you will be transitioning from the big city of Manila to Boracay.
right, right. That's
What
true.
what made you decide as a family
Mhm.
towards that transition?
Well, it was during a prayer walk. I was walking around the village, having just brought my second son Elijah to his to a family to a neighbor, a playmate, and I was thinking it's the same routine, same thing. Thinking about the family being locked down for so long and just being limited to a certain space. Uh, that morning, my son was playing in the sand in the street. You know those little crevices in the streets that gather dust. Para sa kanya, parang sand yan. He was gathering that dust and like playing with that. And I was thinking, okay, Lord, where can I move my family? Where can we go where they can enjoy not being locked down, hemmed into four corners of a house or a little village? Where can I bring them? And then the first thing that God said in my heart said, you don't have to stay in the city. Like, oh no, everything's online. Who said that we need to be locked into the city? And so I was thinking about the timing. We are renting our house in Alabang, and renting a smaller one in Cavite, and living off the difference. And our lease was coming up. Um, Renewal was coming up in February. That was October. So I started searching online. First, my thought was nearby the city in Batangas, maybe 3 hours away. But then when I saw the houses for rent, they were isolated, no community, expensive. Started searching, and then nag-pop up yung there was a Facebook page that popped up, and it said Boracay long-term rentals. And then the next line was pandemic rates, 50% off.
Wow.
So I checked it out. So instead of like 100,000 pesos rental for a villa, it was now half the price, like 45, 50,000. And that was like half the rent that we're paying in Manila. So economically, it made sense. Long story short, I went home, uh, asked Miriam, said, "Babe, what do you think about the idea? Would you think it would be crazy if I said let's move to Boracay?" And then she looked up and said, "Let's go."
I love
So
the
it wasn't
story.
something that we were planning to wait on. I said, sige, siguro it will take a year before the pandemic ends based on research and yeah, so we said we'll wait out the pandemic here. And at the same time, sabbatical.
There goes. And you did mention, you've written a lot of books in your life, and being where you are right now,
Mhm.
I suppose, encourages you more
Hmm.
in writing. And that is our topic for today, Coach RD,
Yes.
ignited by writing. You know,
Yes.
during the pandemic, Coach RD, I've spoken to many friends and
Mm.
even relatives,
Mm.
and they're thinking of passion projects. And
Mm.
I've encountered a few who would say, should I write?
Mm.
What should I write? And I've been thinking of becoming an author
Mm.
before I take the leap on the other side. So that ignited me to invite you. And the topic
Mm.
for today is ignited by writing.
Wow.
And I am excited for us to go through our set of questions and for us to give insights to our viewers and listeners today.
Let's go.
So, our first question is, what was the turning point in your life when you said to yourself, I want to write? I want to
Mm.
write a book. So,
Mm.
tell us about this first ever book that you've written and that turning point. Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't a point where I said I want to write a book, but instead it was really a message inside my spirit, my heart, that ignited me, that really pushed me to start writing. I had at first that the first book I'm talking about is Buhay na Hindi Bitin, or in English, Life That Living Life to the Fullest. And I had just had a encounter with God. I had become an you would say committed Christian, and surrendered my life to Christ and started living a totally new life. And I had discovered the good news, and I was wondering to myself, people don't really know the good news versus the bad news. I mean, the bad news is, there's judgment. We're all sinners, and the key verse there is, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus. Very simple, Romans 6:23. Um, I was at a point in my life where my first wife, Ting Ting, um, sort of, I followed her to a Bible study. Not She didn't even invite me. I just followed her. I invited myself, and there I discovered God's word, and my soul got ignited. If you say that, I discovered that God's word was refreshing, was truth. It spoke life to my heart. I was All the problems I was experiencing, bankruptcy. I come from a very difficult um, business project that failed big time. Lost all the savings that I had, and I was really down. And so you could say that God rescues the brokenhearted and crushed in spirit. He was there rescuing me, and so that was a turning point in my life. And when I had that encounter with Christ, I just wanted to write about it and tell my family. So my first intention was really to tell my closest friends and family about this encounter that I had, because I fear this is better than the cure for cancer in my mind, because we're talking about eternity, not just about life here. And so I started writing uh, in my computer. I won't tell how you'll age me kasi. So this is about just this during the time of dot matrix printers. Okay, I
I
started writing on
remember
my.
that matrix.
It's so noisy, when you start printing. So I started that simple letter, which turned out to 12 pages long. I just wrote it like over an evening or two. I remember, then editing, and then I started printing it out on that matrix, and then I sent it out to maybe 20 friends and family members. Later on, I had the desire, the message. I thought I wanted to spread the message to more people, not just family and friends, and maybe more economical than printing out dot matrix continuous forms. Tagal kasi, di ba? It takes so long for a page to be printed out.
Aside from being long or taking long, maingay siya,
Yeah, lots of
right?
noise pollution.
Lots of noise pollution as you
Oh,
keep on printing. So
yeah.
economically, you thought of, why not
Yeah,
print
I
this
thought,
as a book?
yeah, exactly. So I contacted the printer, gave the printer um, the letter, and I even laid it out myself on just at that time WordStar or something, or before MS Word came out. And it was very simple. It was just on a um, half page letter size. I asked the printer to relay out. I contacted a pastor friend who was doing illustrations, and that's what came out. Yeah, so this is the book I'm talking about. It's now in its present form, called Buhay na Hindi Bitin, currently published by OMF Literature. But before this, I self-published it. It didn't look like this. It really looked like a pamphlet. I remember printing maybe like 1,500 copies, and I used my own money. That's how much I believed in the message, and
Mhm.
how much I believe that people should hear it. So I think the same thing applies for people wanting to write a book, wanting to be an author, and it's really how much do you want that message to come out?
Mhm.
And and right now it doesn't matter what form, or printed or digital or audio, or all three, or even as a blog. In today's world, we're talking about not just being authors, but content creators with a message, wanting to be just uh, burst out to the public. And for me, that's it there. JV, your environment is secondary. Even if I'm here in Boracay, but you have no desire to write and send out that message, you're not gonna write.
Mhm.
You can be in prison, like Paul was when he wrote many of the books in the gospel, and he wrote with joy in prison. So it really depends on that. The motivation is that inner desire for that message that I believe, especially if it comes from God, that your spirit is being moved to spread out.
Coach Ardy, as I'm listening to you, I'm having goosebumps
Yeah.
because for our listeners and viewers, just to let you know, Coach Ardy is my mentor for Project Author. I started to work with him along with aspiring authors last year at
Mm.
the height of the pandemic. And my goosebumps really is coming from when I was in deep pain, and
Mm.
Coach RD knows some
Mm.
of those difficult moments through the
Right.
pandemic. He told me that use your pain to write.
Mm.
Your pain is your biggest catalyst.
Mm.
And at that time, Coach RD,
Yeah.
I could not fully comprehend what you were trying to say.
Mm.
But when I was over with 2021, which was one of the most difficult years of my life, I
Mm.
remembered you again in 2022. And I used that pain, the most difficult moments of my life, and I started to write.
Mm.
And like what you said, you can be in a great place in a comfortable hotel and not have the desire to write,
Mm.
or you can be in a small shack or in a prison and still have that desire to write. Coach RD, you did mention a while ago you believe in your message, and even a dot matrix printer
Yeah.
should be able to help you print. Now, much of the fear and uncertainties of aspiring authors is would be the fear of may magbabasa ba nito? Would
Mm.
people want to read what I will write? There's
Mm.
so many fears, uncertainties for
Mm.
an aspiring author. Would you
Right.
like to speak about that? Some of the confessed fears
Mm.
shared with you by aspiring authors and writers, and what's your advice to all of us?
Most of the fear, I think, comes from the fear of the unknown, not knowing what to do, where to go, who to talk to. Um, Not many have really voiced out, sino ba magbabasa nito? But I know it's one of the voices inside of the author's head, including myself. Pero when you write with an intended audience in mind, like when I was writing my first book or booklet, I was so focused in on certain phases. When I do project author, I talk about the first thing is the who. Who are you? Who are you writing this for? And my advice to a lot of people is when you write a book, imagine you're writing a letter to someone so that it's personal. And even if just one person reads that, then for me, I've accomplished my goal. Even if it's just one person. Okay, I mean, for me, that I've done my duty. I talked to another author. His name is Dennis Waitley. He visited the Philippines. We actually brought him here to speak. He's also an accomplished speaker. Wrote many books, and he mentioned one thing. He said in another interview, he was asked by um, the great should I say, yeah, the great evangelist, Billy Graham. Billy Graham said, ask him, so Dr. Waitley, how many people have been changed by your books? And he said, well, I don't really know, but I'm sure that there's been at least one life that has been changed. I said, yeah, really? And he said, yes, my life. And so he said, in
Wow.
the process of writing his own book, his life was changed as it was. And in the process of writing, it becomes cathartic, diba? You get a release knowing that, diba, when you give birth, when a mother gives birth, she doesn't do it for an audience, right? It just has to come out. You know, the seed, the baby just has to come out, and whose life is changed is the mother, the one who gave birth to the baby. And I think it's the same, you could say, metaphor
Mhm.
for writing a book. Sometimes
Mhm.
when I write a book, feeling ko, nanganak ako, I feel like I've given birth, even though I don't know how it's like. I can only imagine, pero maybe that's being over dramatic, having watched my wife give birth. But yeah, that's my feeling. And so, and then when the book is out, JV, I don't really, I take a break and I just sometimes there's like a postpartum depression that comes in. Like, okay, who's gonna parang sometimes you don't want to take a look at it or you don't want to even you know touch the book anymore, but sometimes you're just so excited that it's there. So it's a whole range of emotions, but what I want to try say, just ilabas mo, just give birth, and 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 the book will take its will have its own life just like a baby, and you just watch it grow and enjoy it and take joy uh, in the process, where people will take that book, and sometimes a lot of people will read the book and have a different meaning, have a different
Mhm.
take on it, and will tell you, you know what, um, there's one book that I wrote uh, called Real Men Are Pogi, or Pogi means handsome if you're a non-Tagalog speaker, but the Pogi was an acrostic for a man who is pure in his intentions for his future wife, obedient to God's commandments, a gentleman, and intense in his love for God and his future spouse or his current spouse. And I wrote that for single men to help them on the journey of courtship. But there have been couple after couple after couple who come to me after reading the book and telling me, you know what, this book saved our marriage.
Wow. Wow.
uh, Hindi lang isa. It's not just one, JV. I mean, them coming up to me, I'm doing a book signing, they'll come up to me and say, you don't know what this book has done for us. It saved our marriage, and I never intended that book to be a
Yes.
marriage saver. Pero God used it in his own way so that it ministered to that couple in his own way. So you never know. That's why I hope that helps allay some fears. Forget about fears about whether you wrote well, or is it going to be is it worth the ink and the paper that is going to be printed on, or even if it's an ebook, the space or the gigabytes. Just write it and release it, give birth to it, and watch how God will use it.
You know what? You kind of read my mind because my follow up question is For listeners who's just waiting for that last push
Hmm.
and they're just going through a lot of uncertainties, what would be your key message for them? And what I'm hearing from you, Coach RD, is just write it,
Yeah.
just release it. And
Ah,
ako po, what I'm getting here is just surrender it.
hmm,
Because when God calls you, makulit siya. He is
hmm,
so persistent,
hmm,
wanting to use your talent and
hmm,
wanting for you to
hmm,
make life-changing moments. And if your talent is writing, He's
hmm,
given you that, we
hmm.
have to give it to Him.
Yeah,
As you said, He called you by name.
exactly. But you know what, JV, even if it's not really your talent or you feel writing is not your gifting, as long as you have a message, I say go. There are many people that have come to me, especially in project author, and they tell me, but I'm not a writer. Hindi ako magaling sumulat. I'm not gifted in writing. And I tell them, we're here to make you or help make you an author, not a writer. Being an author and a writer are two separate things.
Can you expound on that, Coach RD? Go ahead. And I think this is a pivotal
Yeah.
moment in our conversation
Hmm.
because there's a lot of fears and concerns being writers and authors, and I'm not a writer. I don't think I
Hmm.
can ever be an author. Go ahead, kindly deepen that a bit.
Right. An author is someone who has a message that needs to be that, and his desire is to have that message um, released or given birth to or published. A writer is a writer. A writer is someone who is a wordsmith who takes words, puts them together in a sentence, creates a paragraph. So he's what you can call a someone in production. Okay, an author can hire a writer to form those to put form and logic maybe into those thoughts that that author has. So I know many authors who have this idea for a book, but they don't know how to organize it, how to write it. So they'll maybe speak it to that person, and then
Mm-hmm.
that person who's a writer will write it out, or he'll start writing, no matter how bad the grammar or the composition is, and then have someone who is a writer or an editor help him, uh, make sense out of the message. So what I'm saying is, if you could be an author without being a writer, because of technology, because of outsourcing. You can outsource it to an editor or a writer. So don't let the fact that the feeling. Don't let the fact that you feel that you're not gifted as a writer or you don't have any talent stop you from being an author.
I love it. Thank you for that
Yeah,
mind blowing aha moment. That's the reason why we have these conversations, not
exactly.
just to enlighten, but
Mm.
really to dig deep. And through this conversation, hopefully, it'll ignite you in whatever calling or message you have right there in the deepest recesses of your heart.
And you know what, JV? I took remedial English ako in college. I had to take diba, English 101. I had to go to
Yes.
English 100.
Well, thank you for that confession. I'm sure it's giving a lot more confidence to our viewers and listeners today. So, viewers and readers, remember, never allow your quote lack of talent to write unquote to become a roadblock for you not to write or even for you not to give birth to a book. For me, this is one of the greatest aha moments in this conversation with coach and mentor Ardy Roberto. So coach, pag-usapan na natin, let's talk about the important essential steps of giving birth to a book.
Mm.
What are the steps we need to consider?
Well, I'll go back to my high school journalism 101 days when I remember my teacher teaching us the basics of journalism. Right? You start with the who, what, where, when, and how. And those are the basics of writing a book. Who are you writing for? Just determine, okay, why do I want to write this message to this particular group? What form or do I want it? Do you envision it as a book or a ebook or pub? So that's where format comes in. The what. The where is okay. Your environment. Okay. The discipline of writing. Where can I write this book? Where, is there a space in my home or on the way to work? Can I stop by a cafe? And that's where I'm gonna write this book. And then the when. Okay, when you need to have a disciplined time of writing, a chunk of time wherein you will say, okay, this is my writing time. I'm gonna make an appointment with myself and tell people who would like to meet me at that specific time. Say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. You don't have to say that it's an appointment with yourself to write, but you just honor that appointment and start writing. So you know basics. And to plug the Project Author website, all of those basics are at projectauthor.com, where you can also access the intro course. It's an hour and a half talk or seminar, and I think it's on demand. It's being hosted by one of my partners, Sean C. and SEO Hacker, but projectauthor.com, and you can check that out.
And I'm also part of Project Author. I've had this wonderful experience last year,
Hmm.
and in my manuscript yet to be printed, latter part this year, I wrote there, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And Project Author is all about not just meeting coach and mentor RD.
Uh-huh.
It was somewhat like a 6 month journey. In between, we have mentoring
Yeah.
conversations. But you know, the most beautiful thing that I've experienced is meeting co-aspiring
Hmm.
authors.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
when you said about where, when, why, who, it's a 5W and 1H coach, right?
Yep.
When you said where, I remember buying a table from IKEA because I need that table to be placed in our small garden.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a safe space, an encouraging space where I could write. You
Hmm.
also talked about when.
Hmm.
And when I was just finding my way through authoring of last year and
Hmm.
early this year, I
Hmm.
couldn't find which time worked best for me.
Hmm.
But when manuscript deadline was coming near, alam ni Coach Ardy to,
Yeah.
every day for the past 2 weeks, every day I would be writing
Wow.
from 6:30 to 8 a.m. I
Wow.
found my time.
Wow.
So God is the God of perfect timing talaga. And I
Yes.
felt early mornings really worked for me. It may not necessarily work for everybody, but my brain and my heart
Hmm.
are at their freshest state in
Yeah.
the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for. I'm so happy for you, JV, and just to hear you talk about how life changing it's been. So I'm really excited for you. So.
Yes. And Coach RD, aamin ako, I'll be
Hmm.
confessing,
Hmm.
last year was a tough journey for an aspiring author for me. In fact, writing my first originally designed book, I had to scrap everything last year because it didn't feel right. I
Yeah.
had writer's block. Can we talk about that, Coach RD? You know, writer's block, you can't seem to bring yourself to type or to write. Walang inspirasyon.
Hmm.
Help
Well,
us through that. Go ahead.
that's part of the process. Even like you said, you had to just scrap your whole old manuscript. That's part of the process. And writer's block, honestly, I don't recognize it, so I don't have to deal with it. Hindi sa pagmamayabang. It's not just being cocky because for me, it could become an excuse. Oh, I have writer's block, so um, I'm not gonna write today. But for me, it's more of, I don't know if I have a different name for writer's block because I refuse to recognize it. But for those who are stuck with it, what I do is, siguro, I could call it, writer's block is another name for procrastination. So me, I recognize procrastination. And maybe you're not just in the mood to write. You don't feel any ideas. So the way I deal with that is that maybe I'll take a walk around the block. Like
Around the
Rich,
block.
yeah,
The
Rich,
block.
the block. take a walk around the writer's block. Grace Strong, would say that walking and thinking about what you're gonna write is part of the writing process. Writing doesn't mean that you're sitting down and physically writing. Writing can be is part of the writing process is thinking, you know, and a lot of times that helps. So, uh, especially here, if you just go out to the outdoors. Here, I'm blessed that I can just walk down the beach and think and sit down be under a tree and start, thinking about content, what to write. Or if you're not in a beach like I am, you can just go around. You can go to the mall, go up and down, or around the block if you're in a village or anywhere. It could be just do some physical. Take time to get out of that space where you feel you're being forced to write um, or feel that you're hemmed in. Another way is the best, and I think this is the best way. If I feel uninspired, I read another book. I read someone else's book, and then while I'm reading, I and make sure that you're reading good writing. Many times in the past, I've been so inspired to write because I was inspired by someone else's writing. So I would get a book and I love the way he would express this idea. I would write it down, and maybe sometimes I pick out that portion to include in my book as a quotation, as a quote, and that will start the writing process. Another way is by journaling. So if you wake up in the morning, uh, before you even start on your book project, start journaling, uh, writing down your thoughts, maybe even offering as a writing a letter to God about what you need to do, and that helps a lot. And before you know it, you're transitioning already into writing your book. So there are
I
many ways.
totally agree with you.
Uh,
I mean, now, the aha moment is there's no writer's block. There's probably procrastination or fears lurking more than faith.
mm,
Another one is just just really uninspired. And with that, you've shared so many tips on how we can battle or manage
mm,
writer's block. And I love walk in the block. Coach RD, please mention or promote any initiatives that you would like our readers and viewers to probably explore with you. Project Author is one. And share with us your final tips,
mm.
especially for writers and aspiring authors. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, sige, thanks for giving me the permission to promote. Uh, of course, top of mind is Project Author. I mentioned before, you go to projectauthor.com. I'm on sabbatical, so I'm not doing any Project Author this year. Um, and maybe I just want to make sure that the last batch you guys will get your. I want to be there behind you, cheering you on while I'm here. In fact, I wanted to maybe a Project Author retreat. Maybe within the year, you can come over to Boracay. The last two batches from last year. So, but if you don't have that,
Yes, yes to that.
but if you can't be here physically, there's always the. Buti na we recorded Project Author 101. The one that JV went through is 101 and 102, which is the coaching, the 10 session over 6 months or even 9 months journey. I call it a journey rather than a than a course. No? So you could go through the recorded sessions of Project Author 101 on the website. You can also check out I have some writing tips on my website, ardyroberto.com, although I have not been very good in populating it lately. I have a YouTube channel, two channels. One is Life with Miriam and Ardy, and that um, really is a document of our journey here, going to Boracay. It also is a archive of stories, and in particular, love stories of couples that we have met in the past. Um, and I also have my own little YouTube channel that I don't really promote. It's really just for people who want tips on being an author, and it's Ardy Roberto Author. So just search on YouTube, Ardy Roberto author, and I posted many videos, tips on the writing process and how to be an author as well. And of course, lastly, uh, if you haven't read any of my books yet, then they're on Shopee, they're on Lazada. Maybe I can send the links, and it can be on the description box as you go over this channel, JV's channel, and also on Amazon. So all you have to do is search on Amazon. It's an ebook on Amazon, and so yeah. So that's a lot. That's a lot to.
That's a lot. That's a lot. You're reminding me how you would mentor us that writing a book, the physical book, is just
Yeah,
one among many dimensions of sharing the message.
right,
You taught
right.
us how to create multi channels. Like this one
Mm,
is a birth of that, which is the
yeah,
Ignited with JV Wong YouTube channel. We are also present on Spotify for audio experience, which
yes.
this conversation will be on Spotify
Wow.
very soon. And you also taught us to bring it forward to Amazon, right?
Right.
Yes. So final tips, Coach RD, specifically on multi-channels. I think it's something that
Mm,
people should explore doing and not just the physical book.
mm. Yeah. So just a mindset shift. Uh, when people think about being an author, people think about the physical book,
Mm-hmm.
especially in my generation, and they are hindered by the cost, the time. But now there's what I call the democratization of publishing. And you don't have to wait until a publisher picks up your idea or your book and go through the process, because it can be a 6 month minimum to a year and a half, even 2 years before you can see your book published if you go the traditional route. But now I'm talking about the democratization of publishing, and that means you, the author, have the power and the tools to publish your own book online as content, whether it's in the form of an ebook. You go to Amazon, KDP, and it's all there. They'll teach you how to publish, upload your manuscript online so that it becomes a Amazon ebook within 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
Uh, there is, of course, YouTube, which you're looking at right now. This is a form of content. This content that we're bringing you could be in the form of a book, a chapter of a book, or it could be in the form of a vlog like this. It could be like what JV is doing, audio. And aside from Spotify, there is Audible. You could go and turn your content into the spoken word, and
Mhm.
audiobooks right now is actually even overtaking ebooks. So that's definitely an avenue to you know uh, to just journey through as well. So there's so many ways that you could. There's no more excuse. Technology has taken out every excuse that you might have in the book.
No
So the
more
only
writer's block excuse.
yes, yes. No more saying I don't know how, because everything's there. I mean, I mentioned my channel. There are gazillions of other channels where authors are wanting to help, whether it's a paid course or free course.
Mhm.
There's a plethora, so many ways that you can. Sometimes the problem is there's too much information out there. So just, but the whole the it all stems from how bad you want it. What is your motivation? Hindi ka ba makakatuloy? You won't be able to sleep. You know, is it the kind of message that you know God won't allow you to sleep until
Amen to that.
you publish it, whether it's read by one book or 100 people, one person or 100 people, or it becomes a bestseller. I don't go out writing a book saying I want to write a book that will become a bestseller. That's not my intention. It just so happens to become one because I guess people will sense when an author is sincere, when he's authentic with his message. And that's all you have to be. You have to be authentic and sincere. Today is in this COVID generation, people are looking for people that they can connect with who have an authentic message coming from an authentic self. And And if you have that, they'll want to read you. They'll want to connect with you.
Oh my, I've been blessed by this moment. I am so joyful and honored to be interviewing you, Coach RD. I've missed you since the project author of last year, but thank you for keeping in touch with me. Thank you for igniting me as a writer and as an author. So, my dear viewers and friends, for me, the biggest aha moment here is that do you have a message? And if you think that God is calling you to give birth to that message, no matter what channel, no matter what dimension or form, you can't do anything but say yes. With that, maraming salamat po. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and for being with us. Keep on following Ignited with JB Wong, where great insights from great people happen. God bless everyone. God bless you, Coach Ardy.
God
Stay
bless.
safe.
Right on.